Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My girlfriend has too many pets. I'm putting an end to it. After that, why I'm not sharing my grandmother's inheritance with my father. And after that, my fiance sold my train collection behind my back. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to give up one of her pets. You stay away from my fluffy Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My girlfriend has too many pets. I'm putting an end to it. We've been together for 12 years. We have a 1-month-old baby and we're full of animals. We have 4 bathrooms and 3 of them are occupied with animals. One of the bathrooms is owned by a bunny, the second is owned by 3 cats, and the third by another pair of cats. In our basement, we have 6 puppies, 2 months old, that were born to a stray dog that my girlfriend took around a year ago. Our ceiling, top floor, is completely occupied by another 3 cats. And our living room is the place where our chihuahuas live. She never takes them out, so every single morning I wake up and the floor is full of doggy doo. On the stairs between the first and second floor, there's a bunny, which is in a big cage, I'd say. Every single animal room is getting completely destroyed, and we're on rent, so I'm super worried if in any case the landlord asks to come around. Outside of the house, the stray dog lives in the garage, and when it's closed, it goes to the bathroom in there. There's still mess from around 2 weeks ago. We also have 6 Japanese Akitas, for which I bought a separate house so my mom can take care of them because I no longer can walk them and give them the proper love. Since I found out my girlfriend is pregnant, I've been starting to work 2 jobs. I've hired a cleaner and I'm away for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I realized that I could be helping more with the baby, but that's what this situation requires. Recently, I've tried to convince her to reduce the cats, remove the bunnies, remove the stray dog, and give out the puppies from the basement, but she simply refuses. I'm okay if we keep 4 of the chihuahuas because she really loves them, but I can't take the mess around the house anymore. I'm scared that when our daughter passes the 6-month mark and starts moving around, she could get dirty, or just be restricted to a single room. Last but not least, I'd like to have more than 2 or 3 kids, and I just can't imagine them living in this kind of a situation. In a recent conflict, I decided I can no longer allow this and said that it's up to her to decide if she wants to live with me and our daughter, or rather have all the animals, for whom she doesn't take care of. Am I a total jerk for giving her such an ultimatum? Edit. In regards to buying a house and renting, we're living in Eastern Europe. A house here could be around 40,000 euros in a small village. We're renting because we live in the capital. Yikes! This is what you need to do ASAP. 1. Take the baby and go stay somewhere else, maybe with your mom for a while. 2. Get a family lawyer to help you navigate. 3. Get your kid's mom to a therapist. She's not well enough to care for her kid. 4. Work with animal control to relocate those poor animals. 5. You'd probably have to pay a lot of money to your landlord for how the place was destroyed. 6. You're the jerk for letting it get to this point. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. If this was a reality show, I'd totally watch it. Why I'm not sharing my grandmother's inheritance with my father. When I was 13 years old, my mother found out my father was having an affair and he got the other woman pregnant. After this came out, my father confessed he was in love with the other woman and wanted to leave my mother. She obviously was heartbroken and didn't know what to do. We had moved to a new state with my father for work, so she had no family around. My father dropped us like a bad habit soon after this came out. He attempted to keep a relationship with me, but ultimately his new family was his priority, as he said. Tough to understand for a 13-year-old, but whatever. If he didn't want me, I wasn't going to need him, so my mother and I moved on. But the only way we were able to move on was with the help of my grandmother, my father's mother. She always loved us and was appalled with what her son had done to us. He stopped seeing her as well for the most part. We became very close over the years, seeing each other for special occasions and holidays while her son was nowhere to be found. She even helped my mom out monetarily when we needed it too. Unfortunately, the years caught up with her and she developed colon cancer. Advanced late stage, her decline was rapid. Within a few months, she was in hospice. Days before she passed, she asked me to call her son to come see her as she knew her time was coming. He had only been to see her a couple times since she had gotten sick. When he came by, I was visiting, as we did every few days, and he acted like I was some random person. Grandma asked him to come back tomorrow, but he said he'd be back in a few days. She passed 4 days later without him coming back, despite my calls and texts to come. She went peacefully with me and my mom by her side. That was hard. I miss her every day. She was my guardian angel most of my life, and I know she continues to watch over me. After the services, where my father did show up and made a big scene and made it about himself, we were contacted by her lawyer. Unbeknownst to everybody, she left me her house and a good amount of money, $200,000. No idea she did that, but in the will, there was a note to me from her that said, "You are worth it. Love, Grandma." She's amazing. Also in her will, she left my father exactly $1 as his inheritance. When he found out, he went ballistic, blowing up my phone all the time, demanding I give him his house and his money. His new wife and his son were messaging me a lot, and his son was writing on social media that I manipulated my grandmother. My father apologized and said he was under a lot of stress because he's in debt and was banking on this money to come in for bills and to send his son to college. That made me feel bad, like maybe I should give him something. I've thought about it a lot, and I don't think I'm going to share anything with him, and I kind of think that makes me a jerk because it seems like they really do need it. But on the other hand, forget him. I don't know. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. The reason she left him $1 was to make it clear to the court, in case he tried to challenge the will, that she hadn't forgotten to include him, but that she intended to disinherit him. She knew that her son would try to take the money she left you. It is very common practice to leave $1 when disinheriting someone. Respect your grandmother's wishes and don't give your father a dime. Edit to add, yes people, I'm very aware that this isn't necessary to disinherit someone, and that it comes with the added annoyance of having the disinherited person be named a beneficiary. Just because it's unnecessary doesn't mean that people don't do it, and it's still very effective in making the deceased's intentions clear. As soon as I read that Grandma left him $1, it was clear she knew exactly what she was doing. OP, she wanted him to have exactly what she left him. Continue having no contact. You know he is not worth the headache. Clearly, Grandma was pretty sharp. And if she thinks OP is worth it, that's all that matters, not the jerk. But still, he is your dad. The boy is your half-brother. Blood doesn't matter, and life is too short to remain angry. They have money problems, so it would be a nice olive branch if you help them out. Maybe take an example from Grandma and send $1. That way, you've doubled their inheritance. A 100% increase is not to be sniffed at. Put the check for $1 in with a letter explaining that you've thought long and hard remembering your grandmother and taking into consideration what she meant to you and what she so clearly meant to him. You have decided that he is right. He does deserve more of her legacy to remember her by, so you are going to double his inheritance. Then immediately block him, his wife, and his son on everything and go on living your best life. Well, what do you think? Should OP give any of this money to her father or not? Please let us know. I'd give the three of them 33.3 cents each. My fiance sold my train collection behind my back. I, 28 female, lived with my aunt and uncle as my parents could not raise me. My uncle started collecting trains as a hobby when he was working as an engineer. I took a huge interest in them as a kid and as a teenager. My uncle gave me his entire train collection when he became sick. When I turned 19, I moved out and found a nice apartment near my college. I brought the collection with me. Some of my friends thought it was cool, others find it weird. I met my boyfriend in college and he moved in with me after we graduated. We got engaged last year and are currently struggling with debt, student loans, and the wedding. My fiance asked if we could have an expert come into the apartment and price the train collection. I was against the idea and told him that I would not sell the collection as it was a large memory of my uncle. My best friend got engaged this past weekend and a few of us went to celebrate at her parents' lake house. I was gone for 2 nights, and when I returned, the train collection was completely gone. My fiance came running over, saying that a collector came and gave him a decent price for the set. I started crying and yelling at him that he destroyed my trust and told him to leave the apartment. He left without protest and has been staying with his parents. I told him that he had to pay me back all the money. I did threaten to sue him as well. His parents are trying to argue that he was only doing what he thought was best for both of us. Am I the jerk for demanding my fiance pay me back for selling my train collection? Not the jerk. Your fiance stole and sold the train collection without your consent. Please go back to that collector and explain the situation. File a police report and sue your fiance for grand theft. And OP, please break up with him because he completely betrayed your trust. You cannot get married to someone who has no respect for you. What an awful man. File a police report. Your ex committed a crime, and depending on the value, a very serious crime. Provide the police report to the collector so they clearly understand they purchased stolen goods. Also, that collector could be shady too. He purchased it likely knowing your ex didn't really own it. Edit. Yes, it's a stretch to assume the collector knew the ex didn't have permission to sell them. I made that assumption thinking that the ex didn't know anything about the trains and possibly stated that they were his girlfriend's trains. Not the jerk. But you can report that collection is stolen so you could potentially get it all back. The sale of stolen goods is not legal. I would act fast though, checking with police, because depending on the collector who bought it, they might be selling off some of the pieces and then it might be impossible to get them all back. And him giving you the money he got from selling your stuff isn't even an apology. I wouldn't act like it was. That money is yours, completely yours, and probably is worth way less than the actual collection. Do not touch that money though. Report the whole thing as stolen. If you get the money, it could be argued that you knew and benefited from the sale. And this is a pretty good insight for how he will act during your marriage, going behind your back to make what should be joint decisions after you already said no, keeping that money as his own, saying that he knows best to do what's good for both of you, without taking your opinion into account. Am I the jerk for uninviting my mom for my wedding when she kept insisting on my stepson not being there? It's a stupid thing to ask, I know, but my mom's been an important person in my life, and I'm not sure if perhaps I overreacted. I, 26 male, met my soon-to-be wife, Amy, 25 female, 7 years ago. Her son Jason was 11 months old, and she broke up with his dad already. I love Jason as my own son, and that's how I see him. He calls his dad, Dad, and he calls me, Pa. My mom didn't like the idea of me being with someone who already had a kid with someone else. We fought about that during the first 2 years of the relationship until I threatened to stop talking if she doesn't accept Amy and Jason in my life. So she let it go and didn't bring it up ever again. I proposed 4 months ago. We're supposed to get married in March. My mom offered to pay for half of the wedding and we accepted. The issue was, my mom was saying Jason shouldn't be at the wedding because it would be just as weird as if her ex was there. We were both confused by that logic. Jason's a huge part of our lives. It's our wedding, so of course he's going to be part of it. That was a hard no from both of us. She tried to bring it up more times until finally she pulled the "I'm paying for your wedding, so I'm allowed to decide" card. That's the part that got me the most. She wanted to use the fact that she's helping to pay to keep our 8-year-old from being there at our wedding. I paid her back the money she gave us for the wedding and told her she's also not invited. Now she keeps calling, crying, that I'm her only son and it would be heartless keeping her from being part of this huge milestone in her life. To her, it's not the same if Jason missed it because he's a kid, not a parent. My family is on my side about her going too far for wanting to exclude my son, but they think I'm the jerk if she's not invited since I already gave her the money back, so she has no say in anything. I'm just so mad about it, and I don't want to see her after she tried to control things like that. Am I being the jerk? Not the jerk. Your mother is acting like a monster to that kid. She can kick rocks. Why would you want such a nasty and mean person anywhere near you or your future family on such an important day? You did the right thing. Not the jerk. She's been a jerk about your son his whole life. It's really weird that she felt he shouldn't be at the wedding. It's up to you whether or not to invite her. I wouldn't unless she grew up and apologized and promised not to act like a jerk at the actual wedding. And then I'd be concerned she'd make some sort of a scene. Next time she calls, I would explain that this is entirely her fault, and that even though she disagrees, Jason is your kid as well as your fiance's. ETA. Others have made this point, and I agree with it. If you have kids in the future with your fiance who are biologically yours, your mother will treat them differently, and obviously so, than she treats Jason. Bear that in mind. I'm all for going low contact, and if she doesn't wisen up, no contact. An onion allergy. Received an Uber Eats order tonight stating, "No green onions or onions, onion allergy." Their order had 2 items, a house salad and a miso ramen. Now, we take allergies very seriously. We're a Japanese restaurant, and of course have people who come in with deathly shrimp allergies, apparently looking to play Russian roulette with their sushi. Any good restaurant should. Whenever people say, "No this, please leave out that," I immediately ask if it's an allergy or dietary restriction, etc., to ensure we can honor it appropriately. We've gotten vegetarians who have accidentally eaten our ramen, not veggie friendly, because another waitress just thought no chicken was fine and didn't warrant any further questions. Anyways, onions. There's onions in a lot of our foods. Our dressing is practically half onion. Can't take onion out of it. I checked the ranch, the only other dressing we have, onion. The ramen also has onions and green onions. We can't take those off, so I attempt to call the customer and it goes straight to voicemail. I leave a message and ask that they please call back. Meanwhile, the order timer is ticking and is already assigned to a driver. I went to check with my boss that the base of the ramen didn't also have onions and he confirmed it didn't. But then he paused and said that the sauce the chicken is cooked in has onion in it. So now, basically, this whole guy's order is worthless because it's all got onions in it. Boss says just cancel the order. We don't do this often, but we don't want to risk it. There's no way to do this order without basically sending him just noodles with a few small veggies and broth and a plain salad, which we knew he wouldn't want. I go to the tablet and no way to cancel it. Uh-oh. Takes a few minutes, but I contact customer support and they cancel the order. 2 seconds later, bing, new order. Same guy, same order, minus the salad and no allergy note. I stood there holding the order slip for a moment before confirming with my boss. Cancel? Cancel. Knowing that they told us about the allergy, I couldn't in good faith send out an order now with onions just because they resubmitted the order without the notes. I tried calling the customer again, still straight to voicemail. Same message, left another note for him. No response. What would you have done? Would you have fulfilled the second order without the allergy note, even with knowing that it was the same person and they had alerted you to an allergy earlier? Or would you have canceled it like I did? I feel like if he had called us, we could have talked it out. Maybe it wasn't an allergy, but a preference. But I didn't feel right with the word allergy on the order, sending out basically a dangerous meal to this person, and we could be held liable for it. Edit. I appreciate the positive responses. I'm glad to hear that I seem to have done the right thing, even if I may have upset the customer. I didn't want to take any risks. Nope, you all did the right thing. I wouldn't risk it either. And forget them for not answering the call. There's a reason you have to give a phone number when you place an order, so they can call you if there's a problem. You definitely did the right thing. Just because they don't put allergy on the second order doesn't mean that there isn't one. And there is no reason to risk not only your job, but the business should something have happened to that person. Am I the jerk? I ate an entire cake by myself in a single day. Yesterday was my 27th birthday. I haven't had a birthday cake for many years because my wife felt that it would go to waste, considering it's just the two of us at home. So she would just buy 2 slices of cake, one for her and one for me. This time, however, I wanted a cake for my birthday. I've been feeling down lately and thought that maybe a birthday cake would uplift my mood. So I asked my wife if she'd bake me one of her famous plum cakes. She usually makes it for girls' nights and family potlucks, etc. She agreed on the condition that I'd have to finish the entire cake and not waste any of it because she'd only be able to eat 1 slice of it. I happily agreed to her condition and she got on to baking the cake. Yesterday morning, we cut the cake and she had a slice for breakfast. She then said that I'd have to finish the cake by the end of the day because she didn't want any cake left over. I managed to finish the rest of the cake during the course of the day pretty easily. When my wife came to know that I had finished the cake, she started scolding me, calling me greedy and a pig. She said she didn't think I'd be such a glutton and finish the entire cake all by myself. She also said she's never making cake for me again. Am I the jerk? Edit. To all the people wishing me happy birthday, thank you. Your wishes made my day happier. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to each one of you because there were just too many wishes. Not the jerk. Your wife clearly wanted to prove you were a glutton for wanting a whole cake and not being able to finish it, therefore wasting food. You proved her wrong, so now she's angry. Also, cake can last more than 1 day. OP. The thing is, she feels that cake becomes dry and loses its moisture if it's not eaten on the same day. Your wife is wrong. Has she never heard of Tupperware? Some cakes are actually better on the second day. I'd imagine a plum cake is one of those. All joking aside, I think the reason your wife is being weird about the cake is because she's on a keto diet and doesn't trust herself around it. So she wants you to eat the whole thing so that she won't be tempted to eat more. But at the same time, she perhaps feels jealous that you can eat the whole thing. I'm doing keto myself. I love baking. There are some wonderful websites including Nom Nom, I Breathe, I'm Hungry, The Sugar-Free Londoner, etc., who all have fabulous keto baking recipes. Maybe if your wife made the cakes keto, then she'd be a bit less controlling about you eating them. Like you could eat them over a few days because it would be okay for her to have a slice every day as well. I'd imagine a plum cake made with almond meal would be fairly delicious in and of itself. And the sweeteners these days are almost indistinguishable from sugar. My favorite is allulose, which is amazing. Am I the jerk for refusing to accommodate my niece's vegan diet? My sister and her husband both lost their jobs, and as we had the space, we allowed them to move in with us. They have 2 daughters who are both vegan. Now, my wife and I have 4 kids. Our 2 older girls are very sweet, and our boys both have autism. We essentially work our daily lives around them to make them more comfortable. As such, our meal plans are relatively simple. Some of the only foods they will both eat is chicken and cheese, so every meal we eat has at least one of those components. Of course, neither of these items are vegan. Our nieces both complain, and as we need mealtime to be relatively stress-free for the boys, it's caused some problems. On top of this, we also have 4 dogs, 1 family dog, 1 dog who is a trained autism service dog, and our eldest daughter adopted 2 dogs at the beginning of April last year. Our oldest is doing an animal welfare course at college and plans on becoming a vet/dietitian. She explained the benefits of raw food, and as such, she prepares all 4 dogs' meals in the morning and refrigerates their evening meals. We don't force her. She chooses to do the other 2 dogs because she wants to get it perfect for them. Anyway, our 2 nieces are complaining about never being able to eat because there's always meat around. They refuse to eat at mealtimes because we serve meat and dairy. I explained that we aren't going to upturn meal plans we've had in place for years just for them. They could either deal with it or make their own food. They're both on hunger strikes, but I don't think I'm in the wrong. I offered to serve the sides, which are generally vegan, in larger portions for them, but cooking several different meals is not something I want to go back to. My sister is staying out of it, and her husband is just happy he's finally getting to eat meat again. My wife thinks I'm being harsh, but when I suggested she take over cooking, she suddenly agreed with me. Am I the jerk? Neckbeard tries to buy cheap parts to save money on his PC build. Since my last story went over so well, I guess I will share another from my time at Macro Point. Now, some people believe the customer is always right. This is a problematic belief. The truth is, most of the time, the customer is an entitled jerk, but you're supposed to perform admirably anyway. This gets harder when you're dealing with anyone who thinks they know something that they do not. So a guy comes into my department and I greet him at the carpet. I tended to be Johnny on the spot whenever someone came in. Welcome to our build your own department. I'm Animaus. What are we putting together today? The man scoffs at me and says, "A computer, obviously." All attitude. He was a neckbeard wearing a My Chemical Romance shirt, pants so tight that he had a mushroom top and mismatched shoes. This was obviously on purpose, as both shoes were clean, just didn't fit his look. I didn't take much time examining him. My dad had always told me I got to get the measure of a man with a glance and look him in the eye the whole time. He literally used to test us on this crap. Turn, look, then tell him what cars we saw in that split second. I was decent enough at it, but not great. I instead would tell myself little lyrics on the fly to remember key details. It's become a life habit. I explained this to point out that I wasn't staring at his look, so I'm pretty sure the snickering hens in the general section who didn't work for us were the source of his ire about being judged about his look. He took my smiles as me thinking something was funny. I feigned ignorance, like I didn't hear him, and then when he asked again, I apologized and asked him to speak louder. Told him I was hard of hearing. This relaxed him a bit, thinking I couldn't possibly have heard the hens giving him the business. I did, but I wasn't going to show it. With an attitude, he handed me a list and leaned forward shouting, "I don't want to be sold nothing. Here's what I need. Go get it." I look at the list and it's pretty thorough. Names of items and SKU numbers. I'm like, bet. This looks like a full build. Good money, though a lot of them I identify as cheaper parts. I tell him it'll take me a few minutes and invite him to take a look around in case he sees anything else he might need. He rudely says he'll wait there and he ain't buying anything else. So don't try none of my snake oil sales crap on him. I smiled and said, "Oh no, but it's so good for the joint and muscles." He didn't think it was funny, so I just walked away and got his stuff. Halfway through grabbing his items, I realized that he only looked at prices and not what each thing did. His build had an AMD processor, but he wanted an Intel board. The case he wanted was slim, and the video card he wanted would not fit. He needed the lower profile, though the Intel board had integrated graphics, so I wasn't sure why he picked a card. Also, the power supply he wanted was of lower quality and wattage than the one that came with the case. All in all, I was compelled to ask what the heck he was trying to build. I gathered everything quickly and brought it up, going over each piece with him and getting his approval. I then asked him if all of this was for the same build, which he replied with a something smart like, "Wow, how observant of you," or something like that. I smiled and tried to inform him that some of those parts would not work together, but he simply cut me off. "Listen, I don't need you trying to upsell me. I've been building computers for a while. I know what I'm doing." He did not, and I wanted to question that validity of his claim. I asked him then if he would like to hear about our return policy just in case. He got belligerent, telling me he knows what he's doing, and how dare I treat him like he's stupid just because of the way he looks. Granted, he did look stupid, but I think his ire was more for the cute girls giving him crap and some insecurity versus anything I said. Alrighty, you are not interested in our return policy or extended warranty policy, right? I confirmed. We're supposed to ask about the warranties for everyone, but I figured he was not going to take kindly to that, so all I wanted to do was cover my bases. "Warranties are for suckers. Do I look like a sucker?" he snapped. Yes, he did, but I wasn't going to say that. I just smiled at him and asked if I could double check his list to see if I got everything. I whipped out my phone and took a picture of everything, along with the list. I knew most of this was coming back and let him go about his day. I didn't even sticker it. I knew what was coming. 2 days later, Neckbeard shows back up. Muffin top, 2 different pairs of shoes, and an anime t-shirt that made Goku look like he had a fisheye head. He looked embarrassed and angry. He had with him someone who I at first thought was his girlfriend, a little Latino woman who I was certain was either blind or a gold digger, but turned out to be his sister. Absolutely no resemblance. She was friendly and told me she was trying to build a gaming computer to play Crysis. I was a little incredulous, young, and, to be honest, at the time, did not think girls played games like that. So I turned to him and said, "Crysis?" And he shrugged. Little lady stepped up and reiterated herself, with a bit of friendly mocking because she knew what I was thinking. Apparently, she got crap for being a gamer girl. I just shrugged and told the truth. There was no way in heck that previous build was gonna play Crysis very well. The brother, whom I'm going to call Neckbeard from here on out, had an attitude. He said yeah and handed me another list, this one similar to before. He made no explanation for his previous mistake and just told me to get the new items, along with the same line about not upselling him. I looked at the list and knew right away that build wasn't gonna play that game very well. I mean, I could get him there with a $1,500 build, barely, but this was something like $900, and that video card, don't remember what it was not going to cut it. I told him so, and that maybe he should look at the game's specs online, which would help him make a better decision. He told me he had done his homework and to just get what he said. I looked at his sister, pleading, and told her that I could come up with a system that was both affordable and would run the game decently. He interjected and got mad, threatening to get another salesperson. I said okay, but I knew he would be back again. As I'm getting his stuff, I hear him, away from his sister, on the phone. He's telling someone that he wants to finish this up and get the build done. Apparently, his parents had allocated some money for this, and he was trying to get a cheap system so he could keep the rest of the money. A real jerk move, but not my problem. I gathered what he asked for and sent them on their way. Didn't tag this stuff either. It was either coming back or could go to the pool. I saw Neckbeard 2 days later with little sister in tow and his parents. He was not dressed like a disaster that day. His parents did all the talking. There was no list. They told me they had trusted their son to get this done because he was good with computers, but the game wasn't working properly and they were trying to get everything together for their daughter's birthday, which had apparently passed after the first time I met Neckbeard. The parents then told me they only had $3,000 to spend on this computer. They had looked up the average price of high-end gaming rigs and wanted to buy an Alienware, but were convinced by their son to build it themselves, possibly so he can control what they spent. $3,000? This man was trying to snake his parents out of like $2,000 with these crappy builds. They told me to put together something that would work, and I smiled at Neckbeard and said, "With a $3,000 limit?" They confirmed, and I grinned. Cue malicious compliance. I tell them I can definitely do that, and ask if they want to come with me and discuss each part piece by piece, and why I think they need it for the game. I go with them and I build a $3,000 system. Neckbeard is losing his crap. Why do we need this? Why do we need that? But no one will listen to him because of his previous failures. I built a system that I'd be proud to own and got it around $2,700 and then explained the warranty and how they would have us build it and have parts and labor on that warranty. Of course, they took it. Neckbeard was angry because we went a little over, and I even talked his parents into getting a boss monitor for the game. These I certainly stickered. If Neckbeard hadn't been such a jerk, I'd have built him a system that could play the game, and he would have been able to go about his fiendish plan and keep his parents' change. Instead, he got nothing, and his sister got a build that she loved and a case that she apparently always wanted, a white Antec with purple fans. Moral of the story is, don't be a jerk to your salesman. Tell them what you want and need, and they will accommodate most times, or at the very least, know what the heck you're doing. If he had known computers like he claimed, this wouldn't have been an issue. Either way, I'm glad things didn't work out for him, and this time, there were no returns. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.